Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Scarlet and Great Empire on YouTube. Ohio State football with Scarlet and Great, the Scarlet and Great podcast. However you know us, we are glad that you are here. Thank you so much for being here. Real quick, Buckeye fans, if you're a huge Buckeye fan, we ask that you please subscribe to this channel. Help us get to 3,000 subscriptions by the Penn State game, the game that will tell all on who the king of the Midwest is this year. You guys have been crushing it lately, helping us get subscriptions. We really appreciate it. It was originally a goal of 2,500. You well surpassed that. Please help us get to 3,000 by the Penn State game. Thank you so much. If you're a huge Buckeye fan, subscribe to this channel. We are going to pump you content. We're going to give you entertainment with myself, Florida Corey, Shane Larson. And as I'm about to bring in special guest, Zach Smith, who we bring in once a week to give real coaching insight, because we got a lot of issues on this team. We're going to try our best to deep dive and see what needs to be done to fix them so you, as a fan, can get the answers that you deserve, because we are the best fans in the land. And without further ado, I'm going to bring in the man that needs no introduction the world over, or at least college football over, Feinbaum, Coach Zach Smith. Coach Zach Smith of Menace to Sports. Welterweight Zach Smith, if I have called him the new slim trim Zach Smith.
There you go.
He used to be beardless, but I see a shadow. Is it coming back, Zach?
Well, you know what, Johnny? We lost our game, our sixth grade football game on Sunday. So I got just been in the film room, really dissecting the film, just trying to get better.
Were you like, remember the Titans out in the garage with a projector style?
Oh yeah. We got a projector going. We got it all going.
So the beard's not coming. It's not back.
No, it's just been a long week. You know, after a loss, it's tough. So we'll be clean shaven when it's time for game time this weekend.
Okay, well maybe we'll do another show another day, breaking that down on that team. But the team that people want to talk about and that we're here to talk about, the Ohio State Buckeyes, a rough one this weekend, a 21-point win, yet still a rough one. I had similar sentiments as your show. I listened to your shows. Corey and I did a show. We said that the defense, there were some things that looked better, though it still looked bad, but there are some improvements on the defensive end. My words were they went from being completely lost to just looking like they are struggling. So, you know, little baby steps, right?
Yeah, little baby steps. I mean, I think what you saw was obviously you learned a couple things in this game. One is Ryan Day has the brass cojones to make a big time decision, like demote a guy and promote another guy, because it's what needed to happen, you know, after week 2, which I don't know that I've heard of that. I know it's probably happened, but not in my career. And it takes some serious guts to make a call like that. Not saying, you know, I'm not here to talk about Kerry and say he needed to be demoted, but the fact that Ryan would do that tells you a lot about your head coach, right? That was one. 2 is you saw a philosophical change. You saw the first play of the game. We had 2 DNs standing up, not in a 3-point. We run a cross blitz up the middle, pressure the quarterback. So that was exciting until the quarterback threw the ball and you saw a receiver wide open and he just missed them. And you're like, oh man, with the good comes the bad with this team, right? But I think the one thing that I take away from this is the linebackers have been the biggest struggle to watch for 3 years, but let's just call it for 3 games. And in my opinion, the 2 middle linebackers that are going to be playing come the end of the year didn't play much or at all in this game Saturday against Tulsa. I think it's TreVeyon Mitchell and EA will be your 2 mainstays at middle linebacker. And so we kind of got to watch the second string play. Now that's if I had to call it, which I unfortunately don't get to, but I think that's one, you know, kind of silver lining here is TreVeyon played well against Minnesota, struggled to trigger against Oregon, didn't play against Tulsa. So we'll see what happens when he comes back come Maryland-ish time. And hopefully by then EA can learn the defense and we can get someone to actually coach him up and teach him what to do.
Yeah, somebody once said something like, well, this guy doesn't know the playbook. And I'm like, you tell me the guy out there does? Right. So, and I think Cody Simon looks to be a good, probably more of a will, but still look at a good interior linebacker. So then you're going to have some interior depth. And then moving forward, they should get better. Guys, I want your thoughts on something real quick. Comment yes or no if this team is similar to 2014. Again, this is why this show is great, because I get to ask questions. to a man over there that was there on that 2014 staff. And this team, but whether you guys think yes, I do want to know your thoughts. Is this comment yes or no? Is this team similar to 2014? Because I want to think about this. 2014, they played a home and home series against an out-of-conference opponent. Game 2, 2014, they lost that game at home. The team looked incomplete. They were starting a new quarterback. He looked incomplete, frustrated, and confused. The defense, I will say, did not look this lost, but it certainly looked incomplete. And then moving forward, there were a lot of growing pains in that season. So, Zach, I want to know, like, what do you tell a team? What went through your mind in that locker room in 2014, where you just say, you know, let's go get the next one. Let's go get the next one. What are those conversations like?
Yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of people are trying to make that comparison, and I definitely see the similarities. I mean, honestly, too many to ignore, right? But that game was very different because it was just complete shell shock. I mean, we went against a guy named Bud Foster, who's a Hall of Fame defensive coordinator and has his defense, right? His baby, this 2 invert coverage that, you know, you would think he invented it. They ran it for decades at Virginia Tech, and they were so good at it because it's what they did. And he literally abandoned decades of commitment to a defense to throw something completely different at us, and we just weren't prepared for it, right? And then I guess where JT struggled was it was all zero coverage, and Urban's answer always was zero coverage. You got to beat them deep and score. But JT couldn't hit the deep ball. We couldn't get it. I mean, it was a perfect storm. Whereas this is developmental incompetence. Let's call it that. And I think that where they go from here is they need to obviously, you know, fix what they need to fix, but they need to get coached. They need to get developed. I mean, there's times where guys are in man coverage, have their eyes in the backfield. I mean, these receivers have 6 drops on the year. That's the most in 3 games in over 10 years, right? There's little things that are just kind of slipping right now on this team that I see that are not talent issues, right? It's man coverage. Why are your eyes in the backfield? They have poor eye control at most positions. And I think that if they can just shore up those little things, this team's going to be markedly better and have a chance to make a run at this thing.
Yeah, and I will say this, you know, there are more similarities, I think, as well, because in 2014, what I always tell people, though, it's almost a mulligan. That team, you guys changed, from my perspective, when Cardale was the new quarterback. Not saying JT was awful, but the offense changed. You had a little more of a deep ball threat with his big arm. The defense just started, and that's not on Cardale. Like, he didn't elevate the defense, obviously, but the defense really played with its hair on fire those last 3 games. They went from a mid-tier team on defense to with not a ton of, I know Joey Bosa, but there were not a ton of star power, right? And they really got it done against Heisman candidates. You had great running backs, right, on both teams. Now, we have a TreVeyon Henderson. You had an Ezekiel Elliott. TreVeyon's a little more green, maybe not as stiff and sturdy just yet as Zeke, but the speed is there. That it factor is there. You know, and Zeke turned a corner in the playoffs as well as the defense. So there are similarities. This is where I am nervous, though, and I'm about to put this banner up. Were there better defensive minds in 2014 to revamp that defense and build it through the course of time? I know Matt Barnes is a smart guy. I know Larry's a smart guy. I know Kerry knows, he's been around football his whole life. But do you give the edge to Ash and Fickell to build a defense if you have to?
I guess the proof is on video, right? Urban Meyer used to always say, "You are what you put on film," and so it's not even close. What Chris Ash and Luke Fickell did is it far supersedes what Kerry and Matt Barnes have done. Now, the other part of this is, right, 2 of those pieces are the same, right? Larry Johnson and Kerry Combs were on that 2014 defensive staff. So now it comes down to, all right, Al Washington or Luke Fickell, and then Chris Ash or Matt Barnes. Now, don't get me wrong, leadership, who's running it, the organization, that is very important. So it's not as simple as that, but there's two consistents still here, right? And Carey's the one that has switched up his role. But I mean, Larry's put out dominant product after dominant product year in, year out. So if it's not happening this year, you could scratch your head and say, maybe Larry's not doing a good job, but we all know that's not true.
Yeah.
So what is it then?
Would you also venture to say both teams had very handsome wide receiver coaches?
Absolutely.
I should have made a banner for that one.
You should have. I don't know why you didn't. Heartline is in much better shape and cares much more about his appearance than I ever did, but we're both good looking. So I could definitely say that is the check mark is with the 2021 Buckeyes.
And Zach, you've always had that, from the first time I met you, you have a natural charisma about you. And I will say, and I never knew this before, and I don't even know if you know it. After Evan Spencer in the playoff that year threw that touchdown pass to Mike, you guys had put it in, and I remember you said you had some influence to Urban. What play you want? Let's do it.
Yeah.
After that play hit, you had this snarl. You had the Tyler Hero snarl on your face on the sideline. I mean, you were feeling it, and I'm sure you were proud of it and proud of your guys.
Well, it was twofold, right? Most importantly, I mean, all three of my guys on the field touched the ball on that play, and it was when I designed it, or not designed it, when we put it in. Tom and I designed it together, but I was just like, all right, I want to do this with my guys. Like I want Jalen. I didn't want Zeke to carry the ball and pitch it to Evan. I wanted Jalen to do it because I wanted to teach it. I wanted to control it because it was going to be my baby, right? It was going to be my play, so there was part pride in that, but also if you look at the film, we called it and then called timeout to think about it. And then I had Urban in my ear for an entire TV timeout about what better not happen, what better happen, this, that. And that if it wasn't open, he better throw in the stands. If he doesn't throw in the stands, I'm going to stay in the locker room at halftime. Like all this stuff he's telling me. And so when it hit, it was partly like proud, it was my play. So I had my own pride on the line, but also like kind of a, like a little screw you to Urban, like, there.
Yeah, maybe that's what the snarl was about. Don't doubt my play. Don't doubt my guys.
Right. And what made it worse was I brought it up, and I did that to Tom a lot. I would bring up one of our trick plays that we had in, and he'd kind of be like, really? Like, you had to do that right now? Because then Urban would be like, yeah, let's do it.
Well, the throw wasn't that open, and Mike just made a play, and Evan put the ball in a great place. Hey, I'm sure you're probably nervous when that ball was in the air because that you could make an argument just to throw that one in the stands.
But that was what he was supposed to do, and not to take up the whole show talking about it. But we ran that play twice in 2014. The first time was Michigan State, and Mike was wide open, like couldn't be more open. And Evan felt like he wasn't open enough, so he tucked it and ran, which is what he was supposed to do. That's what he was coached to do. He got so much grief for it that when we called it in Alabama, I knew there was no way this kid wasn't throwing the ball. No way.
Yeah, well, it was great placement. It was great placement on that pass. Good coverage, better throw, better catch. This is what I think we really need to talk about real quick. Quarterback play. Yeah. Quarterback play is I'm not going to get into should we start another guy, should we not. I will say this. During the game, I put out a poll. You want to see a new quarterback? 80% said yes.
Well, of course they did.
And then I did another poll just in the last 24 hours, and that came back to 72% want to see a new quarterback. But bottom line, for this team to rebound like 2014 did, we have to see better quarterback play, just like you had to see better quarterback play in 2014. Now, you got it from a different guy. However, JT did improve over time.
Yeah.
And all roads lead to a pivotal game. That team kind of showed you who it could be in 2014 against Michigan State. Mid-late season, right? Showed you who it could be. We have another game, mid-late season, October 30th, in the shoe, Penn State. That is where this quarterback needs to show he can grow up, and this team needs to show they can grow up to say, are we for real or not?
There's no doubt. And I'm going to tell you right now, Penn State looks like the top of the class in the Big Ten as it stands today. Obviously, it's easy to say that after a win over Auburn, but they have their own chinks in their armor. And I really think that if Ohio State can do a good job of kind of shoring some of these things up, fixing some of the leaks in the boat, just get a couple things accomplished, Penn State is wildly beatable. I mean, Sean Clifford is a good quarterback, but he relies heavily on play action to be successful. Through 24 of his, what did he throw? 32 passes. 24 of them were under 10 yards. So it's not like he's just dicing people up. Their run game is honestly pretty bad. And they just have a great defense. So it kind of is set up as a pretty advantageous matchup for the Buckeyes. I mean, their offense isn't anything crazy. They don't, throw the ball extremely effectively. They don't run the ball very well. Their defense is great. Ohio State should be built for that game. And so I think if they can just get a little bit done, get a little bit better every week, when they go into that game, that's an advantageous matchup at home, hopefully at night, hopefully a blackout. And then
if that's a noon game, I will fight Gus Johnson in the streets of Columbus, outside of the Point on Lanes tailgate. You'll be filming it on your cell and your cell phone.
Lane, Gus Johnson versus Johnny the Bullet in the ring, in the cage match.
Yeah, Gus probably in better shape than me, sadly.
Who's going to win that then?
Well, I'm always going to bet on myself. I better start training. But anyway, Zach, we appreciate the insight. I do hope that really rebounds and we can see what this team can do by that point in time, because that's going to be a big one. And maybe we put a phone call into Bill Belichick and say, hey, because Dotson's a heck of a player. Mm-hmm. And we'll say, hey, how do you take away the whole thing you do where you take away the best weapon? How do we scheme for this guy? Might be our best chance.
There's no doubt. They're going to need to do something, or you might see Devontae Smith 2.0. So let's just pray against that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for coming on, Zach. As always, we'll do it again next week. Guys, if you're not jumping over and subscribing to Menace to Sports, please do so on YouTube. And you can hear Coaching the Bullet and other great analysis from Zach about all the major college football games, especially in the Midwest right over there. So thanks for coming on, Zach.
No, thanks for having me, Johnny.
Anytime. Guys, as always, goodbye. God bless, and go Bucks.